But I have gotten a sense, as a journalist, as an outsider, that China is kind of asserting itself with the kind of language that we just heard from Victor, more than they ever had in the past. Do you see this too, Pascal?
I had a little bit of difficulties to understand the question, but one thing I need to add at this point is just also that the Japan's current approach to its military strategy also has just as much to do with the United States as it has with China, because the United States, on the one hand, is putting a lot of pressure on Japan to remilitarize. On the other hand, it also is proving to be a very unreliable partner. And this was already perceived during the first Trump administration, and it is perceived so even more now. So what the Japanese are thinking about right now is how to guarantee their national security, perceiving that there are threats from North Korea and from China and potentially even South Korea. I mean, depending on how the relationship goes. At the moment, it's a little bit better, but there were quite bad times as well. And the countries do not take decisions based upon like a bird's eye perspective of the next 50, 60, 70 years. They take decisions based upon how they perceive threats at the moment. And the threat for Japan at the moment is abandonment by the United States and assertive action by China and North Korea on the other hand. And so they are now trying to develop more capabilities locally. They do not try to develop nuclear weapons. The three nuclear no's are still carved in stone as far as we go now. So and Japan has constrained its military for the last 75 years very much. So I do not see a fundamental change in that approach, but in the acquisition of weapons and in its military doctrine of what can be striked at.
There's a famous quote I think both of you are probably familiar with. I think it's a fascinating quote. It says something like this: being the friend of the United States is dangerous. Pardon me. Being the enemy of the United States is dangerous. Being a friend to the United States is fatal. Could China could Japan be falling into the trap of allowing the United States to egg it on, almost in a wrong direction, which is what is causing this ire from the Chinese? Pascal, I'll let you attack that first, since you brought this up just a little while ago.
Japan, the U.S.-Japan alliance is to Japan what NATO is to the Europeans. It's the backbone of all of their security thinking. Yeah. And while they clearly want to maintain that, they are aware of the danger of entrapment and being pushed into something that they don't want. And let me say so, dying for Taipei is not a popular slogan among the population of Japan, whatever the current prime minister is saying. The problem that we have now is that because she said that and there was a big reaction from China, there's actually a good part of the Japanese population who now thinks, oh, we need to stand up to China. We end up in this kind of stupid who has the stronger words kind of situation, which is really what I think the Japanese government should do everything it can to get out of, because these words unfortunately started it.
Yeah, it's about lowering the heat. Hey, I'm wondering, Victor, who are these far-right forces in Japan? I keep hearing Chinese officials refer to. Who are these far-right forces that you're referring to?
Well, these key people keep going to the so-called Yasukuni Shrine, the center of Japan, Tokyo, to pay respect to those war criminals hanged by the Far Eastern Military Tribunal after Japan unconditionally surrendered. They want to continue to embrace the spirits and the ghosts of the Japanese fascists. They want to resurrect their militarism to constitute threat to China and other countries. This is what we call the remnants of the Japanese fascism. They do exist, including, most likely, Prime Minister Takaichi. She wants to visit Yasukuni Shrine again. She visited it again and again throughout her political career. We want to make it clear, the moment she visits Yasukuni Shrine again, in her capacity as the sitting Prime Minister of Japan, she will forever destroy any remaining goodwill between China and Japan. She will carve herself into a new Japanese fascism. So we want to give this warning to Japanese politicians and the Japanese government that it is time for you to sever any association with Japanese fascism, and you should never allow the rise of Japanese fascism again. We do not want to see any iota of Japanese fascism occurring anywhere in Japan, especially among the ranks of the Japanese high-ranking officials, including Prime Minister Takaichi.
Let's talk about the people. I just spent a week in Iran, and I went there thinking that the Iranian people, as a Westerner, as an American, I've always been told the Iranian people are dangerous, religious fanatics, hateful, can't stand the West, can't stand Americans. And yet when I got there, I found just the opposite. They're wonderful, kind, pleasant people who probably know more about America than many Americans do and do not hate Americans. When I hung out with Victor in China, I also had a sense that there was a certain antagonism at the time between the United States and China. And I got a sense from the Chinese people, they have nothing against Americans in general. I asked that question to you, Pascal, because I'm thinking, if I were to go to Japan tomorrow and I talked to the people and stopped in the streets and did man on the street interviews, would I get a sense that the Japanese people hate the Chinese people?
No. I just had dinner with a Chinese friend tonight over here, and we actually talked about that. There is no general hatred in Japan towards China or the Chinese. For a matter of fact, a lot of plots of land in Kyoto these days are owned by Chinese because Chinese citizens can buy property in Japan, develop it, put Airbnbs on it, use it as a business, rent it out, or use it as a weekend getaway. There is no institutional kind of hatred at all. One thing the Japanese currently are bothered with is over-tourism. But over-tourism across the board, and that is not specific towards Chinese. There are right-wing idiots in black cars with ugly flags and so on that are very noisy and that shout despicable stuff about Chinese and about Koreans into the general population. They are a tiny minority and they are hated by everybody because they're so noisy and and scary. They do exist, yes, and these people, they are. I couldn't agree with Victor more. They are despicable, but they are a tiny minority, luckily. They are also very noisy, but the general population has no bad blood against China and the Chinese whatsoever.
Let me ask you the same question, Victor. Do you get a sense in China that there is a resentment against Japan? I understand the historics, obviously. The things that happened prior to and during World War II were just completely some of the worst atrocities in the history of the world. I get it. But today, just as a relationship, do the Chinese hate the Japanese still?
Absolutely not. I personally stand for the proposition that between China and Japan and the Chinese people and the Japanese people, we should have friendship for generations to come, for millenniums to come. But that proposition has a precondition. That is, Japan will never allow the re-arrival of Japanese fascism and Japanese new militarism. That is the precondition. We do not want to see any military threat from Japan again against China. We do not want to see as what we call Japanese devils, because in the Second World War, between 1931 to 1945, Japanese soldiers killed up to 35 million Chinese people, including soldiers as well as civilians. We never want to suffer that specter again. We want to see Japan forever be committed to peace and to friendship with China and other neighboring countries. And we want to see Japan never scheming another bombing of Pearl Harbor.